What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to talk about resume writing. Resume writing is super important because it's a part of the college application process, but it's also a huge part of applying for internships, jobs when you're in high school and in college, so it's important that we get this down. Now today what we're going to do is we're going to go over a bad resume. We're going to go over a terrible resume. I'm going to explain to you why it is not good, and then we're going to edit that resume into a good resume, and we're going to see the difference between the two. Why am I doing this? I read hundreds of resumes a month as the owner of my company. We hire tutors and office workers all the time, and you'd be surprised, many of the resumes are terrible, and that's why I'm doing this video, to help all of you write better resumes and have better outcomes. Now, if you want more information like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, check out the links below for more free resources from NickTheTutor and the team. Let's get into the bad resume. So our fake resume here today, this is not a real resume. I didn't want to roast a real person, that wouldn't be nice, but it is Jeffrey Smith, and you can see he has his contact information up here on the top, and we see the first mistake. And the first mistake is his email address, jsballerforlife@yahoo.com. It's hard to not laugh at that because so many people have email addresses from when they were younger, 12 years old. You make your first email address, or 10 or whatever. You want a professional email address on your resume, right? You want just your name, right? In some form, you can put a period in between, but maybe a few numbers if you have a common name like Jeffrey. I'm sure there's a lot of Jeffrey Smiths out there, but JS for Life is not an appropriate email address to be applying for jobs with, also for college. Not that it's bad, there's no vulgarities, it's not a curse word or something like that, but I have seen even more inappropriate email addresses, but let's just change that, right? Also, you could see the formatting of this, generally speaking, is quite poor. We have like different fonts in here. You could see that the font changes. You'd be surprised, probably thinking, okay, these are basic mistakes, but a lot of people make them. I think one positive is that things kind of line up, at least to some extent, so that's good. You can see here, under the schooling, we have Oyster Bay class of 2015, and then we have what the student did there. Took a lot of math classes and no achievements in high school. Well, one thing you don't want to do on your resume is point out negatives, right? No achievements, like that's not really adding anything. That line is useless. It just wouldn't include it. And I'm sure there's something you can find. I've had many students over the years, not build themselves up enough. There's things you've done that are impactful and that are useful to something like a resume. You just have to dig them out, and we'll see once we redo Jeffrey's resume how those really pan out. Another thing, like took a lot of math classes, like we probably want to know your GPA, maybe some specific classes that you took and what you did in them, something that you learned that's useful for the job you're applying to, or just useful in general that shows some level of achievement. This doesn't really show anything, in fact. And then you have the college experience at Delphi University, year graduated, and Bachelor of Arts in Business. Once again, no GPA, no background information on what the student did, nothing specific. It's really not adding anything other than giving you the year. So we want more than just the year, so we're going to need to do more with that. The other thing is, I would say for all of the students out there that have graduated college, or not students, but young adults, you don't need really your high school education anymore once you become a college graduate. I guess you could still keep it there, but it's not really necessary or relevant once you've graduated college. That's pretty much gone. Now we're getting into Jeffrey's work experience. First, at Jim's Diner. It's spelled incorrectly, unfortunately, as dinner. And it says, worked as a waiter for 2 years taking people's orders, learned a lot about local people in the town, and got to speak to them. Now, this is not great, but this is not terrible. But I think what Jeffrey did wrong here is, he probably did more than this at this job, right? You could explain these two things in much more detail, right? Like, communicating with customers about their order, responding to customer complaints. Like, there's a lot of things that may have, been more impactful than just saying learned a lot about local people, right? Your job at a diner is not to learn about the people as much as it is to respond to them as customers and to deal with them. Of course, learning about them is a great part of that. You could have added something probably more intelligent, like connected with customers on a one-on-one basis to help better serve them, or something to that effect. So I think this actually wasn't the worst part of the resume. I think we've already experienced worse parts with the education, but this part definitely needs work. It's just too basic. Now we have DoorDash. So DoorDash 2017 to 2020 delivered food that people ordered on the app, used to gain a little extra money while I was in college. So once again, we don't need to know that that was the reason why you did the job. We need to know more about what you did at the job. So DoorDash, everyone knows, is a delivery thing. So that really didn't add anything to anything specific. Still could be bolstered by talking about how you deal with customer complaints, how you deal with various situations, what you did on a day-to-day basis more specifically. So, Jeffrey's really struggling here. And then we have marketing intern, no dates, unfortunately. And this says, helped companies with advertising and tried to improve it, learned how to properly market products to make selling it as efficient as possible. So once again, the wording there is off, right? We're not getting consistent verb tense. We're not getting consistent writing style. We want things to sound similar but have more powerful adjectives, right? So, helped is not really powerful. Tried to improve it sounds very meager, right? We want something more powerful. And then we have leadership as its own category. President of the Mock Trial Club helped get new members comfortable with the format, develop new cases for the club to practice during meetings. So not terrible. Once again, using the same words over and over, helped over and over is really not great. Now we have skills and interests, sports, music, video games, drinking. Definitely don't want to include drinking as an interest. Maybe if you were, really into wine, you were sommelier or something like that, that's a way that could get on there. Other than being sommelier or, some sort of working at a beer factory, I don't know if that's necessarily something you want to include. Skills: can type fast, good at thinking on my feet, very social, fluent in Pig Latin, lol. Sterling with the jokes, but fluent in Pig Latin is definitely not something that you need on your resume. Not sure the relevance there. It's not a real language. If you were fluent in a real language, that would be something to add, but just really poor wording there as well. Can type fast. You might want to say types at 80 words a minute. Good at thinking on my feet. That's not really something that you need to add. Very social. These are not skills. They could be worded as skills, but just as they're worded here, they're not. So let's go over some final few comments about Jeffrey's resume before we move on to the better version. The chronology of this is wrong. You should have your most recent and powerful experience on the top. You want to make sure to have dates on all of this. The formatting and the wording of it is generally poor. The font is changing. You have different sizes, different font styles. Overall, it just needs a lot of work. But you'd be surprised, many resumes come in looking like this. And, unfortunately, some of you probably have a resume. I mean, what would you change about Jeffrey's resume? Why don't you comment down below a few things you would change that I missed? There's some mistakes that I didn't point out. See if you can catch them. There's actually a few mistakes that I purposefully left out, but let me know. Comment down below the other mistakes. But let's move on to the better version. So now we have Jeffrey's better resume. You could see already much better organization. You have consistent font. You have a much better email address. You have jeffsmith@gmail.com, which is much more professional. And now we have similar fonts and much better organization. So let's go through some of the things that he changed. So now we have Adelphi University. We have major and minor, and we have the date off on the side. We have Oyster Bay High School. We have SAT scores, and we have the date on the side. So much better organization. We didn't need the added nonsense from the first version. This gets it done in a much cleaner way. Now we have work experience. As mentioned, the most recent and important experience first. Marketing, and actually the name of the company, New York Marketing Agency, instead of marketing intern. That doesn't give the place. New York Marketing Agency intern work closely with other companies to improve their advertising models, which successfully increase sales of their product by 7%. So we're giving data, right? How this individual applicant, Jeffrey Smith, helped companies improve by 7%. Designed an algorithm that would predict the type of advertisements that would appeal most to consumers depending on the product. So showing that Jeffrey took some initiative, right? He designed an algorithm. He did something that impacted the company and really helped the clients. So we see much improved. Now let's go to DoorDash, right? This is the kind of job that a lot of you watching this could definitely have, the internship, DoorDash, jobs that you have in high school and college, right? How do we make them stand out? How do we make DoorDash stand out? Here we go. Driver, delivered food during my free time at college in order to have money for potential summer internships. So a better goal than just having a little extra money, right, to fund the internship that may not have been paid. Improve my time management skills by forcing myself to balance schoolwork while excelling at both. So showing some time management skill that you gained from doing DoorDash, right? That you learned how to juggle school and working at the same time. Obviously, DoorDash kind of thing, you have to drive back and forth, pick up orders. There's like a level of time management skill there. So that's a great thing to include on your resume. I think probably the best thing you could pull out of that kind of job is that you learned how to manage your time and how to be responsible. And now we have Jim's Diner, now spelled correctly, waiter. Waited tables during high school at a local restaurant to gain experience before college, managed the work schedule of other waiters, and made sure that the establishment was always properly staffed every evening. So some higher level skills there, right? Like staffing is a higher level skill than what we had the first time, which is learned a lot about local people in the town, right? Of course, customer communication is important, but staffing and making sure the restaurant is running correctly is definitely something you want to include on your resume as a young worker. Now we have leadership and activity, so we're getting into more specifics here. Economics club treasurer, spend time deciding how best to use club funds in order to give members the best experience and entice potential members, right? So that's something specific that you did at that club that is impactful for future jobs. Invited several prominent finance workers to come speak at events and give members insight into the profession. So another great thing, impacting and changing the organization, bringing in speakers and really doing something positive for the rest of the members of the club is hugely important. I think something you definitely want to highlight. And then mock trial president, help develop new cases for members to go through, as well as making sure all new members become comfortable with the process of the club. So a much more concise explanation than last time, which is basically the same explanation, but just in a more organized fashion. So you could see now this resume is much more focused on work experience, gives a much better impression. I think it's realistic for what you would see for a college graduate or a high school student. This kind of experience, this kind of resume is exactly how you put your best foot forward. It's organized, it's detailed, it dwells on a lot of the positives, not the negatives, and it's organized, it shows professionalism. So at the end of the day, as someone that's 17 through 22 years old, this is what your resume should look like, not this, which is what most resumes look like from high school students and young college students. So hopefully you learned something from this video, guys. Comment down below, should I do more job and work related content? We have a few more videos planned. We'll be doing some stuff on LinkedIn, how to utilize that as well. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll check you guys soon. Peace.